Hi Ravi sir. Basically, I want to know how to
Uh-huh.
do folder structuring, like feature-wise or like all view controllers one side, all XIBs
Mhm.
one side, and network layer in other folder.
What I have personally liked is based on the module that I am working on, I keep everything inside one folder. For example, and this is how I do it. And it might be it might be good for me, but it might not be good for you or the team that you're working with. But I have found it really helpful that if I keep everything in one place, like for example, if I'm working on a product screen or a tax screen. So what I do is I create a tax folder, and inside that tax folder, I will have my view controllers, I'll have my XIBs, I'll have the service classes related to the tax service. I will have any repositories if I have of which deals with tax into that particular folder. So I group them like this, so that if there is a change in the tax module, the person who manages the code after me knows that whatever he or she wants to do with tax is available in one single folder. So they don't have to jump folders here and there, because that is, if you're working on a legacy application, that is definitely the most annoying part. That okay, where is this file coming from, or where is this file or that file? So it helps to keep them consolidated in one group rather than sprinkling them here and there.
Okay, so like there is one tax group, and inside we have subgroups like tax view controllers, tax view
Yes.
model.
Yep.
Okay,
Correct.
got it.
And extensions or whatever,
But
whatever you
in that
need, because
one tax group only.
in that one tax group. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question.
So, Devi, can I
Yes.
ask you something?
Yes, sir. Please.
So it's basically related to swiftui. Oh, no, mvvm actually. So I'm working in swiftui. So I just
Hmm.
want to give a clear idea on what is view controller and what is view model. In the sense, like, we put mvvm, right? So
Hmm.
how do you specifically create a view model and view controller in that? I'm really confused with that thing when
In
I
in
trying
Shift
to
UI.
implement mvvm. Yeah,
In
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 swiftui, basically mvvm. Yeah.
Okay. So in Shift UI, there is no concept of controller, because we don't have that in Shift UI.
Yeah.
That is just related to UI kit. Okay.
Mm.
And MVVM,
Okay.
MVVM is not tied to a particular framework. Like right now you have UI, as you were talking about controllers. So it belongs to the UI kit domain. So MVVM is not tied to any particular framework that you have. So for Swift UI, if you want to use MVVM, so you have models, you have views, and then you have view models,
View models. Yeah.
right? So model is nothing but a structure, a response model that we make for the APIs or whatever model that you want to make. Views is your regular Swift UI view, where you write all your syntaxes for the UI. And then you have the view model. The view model is nothing but your observable object for doing the orchestration. The view model in MVVM communicates with the other layers, like service or repository or DAO layer, right? Data access object layer. Well, not directly, but indirectly through repository. But yeah, this is how you do it in Swift UI. I have a couple of videos showing how you can implement MVVM in Swift UI, so you can check them
Yeah,
out.
I will do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a clear clarity I wanted. Just want to confirm whether the control is there or not. Because whenever
No, no,
someone
no. View
asks me
controller
about
is not there.
MVVM, yeah, I get confused with that. Thanks for that.
Yeah, if somebody is asking you questions like, tell me what is a controller in Swift UI with regards to MVVM, then the question itself is incorrect, because Swift UI does not have controllers.
Cool.
So might
Cool.
be they are trying to confuse you. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Thanks.
Yeah. Nice question.
So Ravi, basically, I was asking that, like you said about the architecture, we have different architectures, right?
Hmm.
MVVM, but the currently trend is going for the MVVM. You should see that in the market, right? And so
For Swift
basically,
UI.
my yeah, for SwiftUI, right?
Okay.
Like previously, people used to follow the MVC, right?
Hmm.
So, like, I mean, why they are keep introducing the new architectures? Uh, what is this?
It
What is
is
actually
frustrating,
it's a
right?
basic
It
question?
is.
Yeah.
It is frustrating. Some people might have found MVVM not up to the mark, and they went ahead and created a subset of it, and that subset was VIP or any other pattern. So this is how it works, right? So if I'm not liking something, what I'll do is I'll try to play around with it, and I'll come up with my own pattern. And anybody can come out with their own pattern. This is how teams operate. Like if you're talking about any service based companies or anything, they'll start with something very simple like a MVC or MVVM, and based upon their project to whatever they see fit, they will have their own custom architecture where they'll manage few things, because whatever architecture that the industry has right now is not fit for their requirement, which I find it hard to believe. Because if you do decent amount of decomposition, and if you do decomposition based on the volatility of the project, this is one of the things why do which I was saying, that low level design has so many things of its own. So this decomposition is actually a part of low level design. Yeah, if you do decomposition based on volatility, I don't think so you would need any of the uh, patterns to begin with. You can keep it simple. For one of the things is like, I don't really understand why is it hard for people to accept simple things. I mean, you can
Right.
just write, yeah, you can just write simple code and it will work. But no, people decided that I want to create 7 protocols and 20 classes, and for a single view. I just don't know. I just don't know the logic behind that. I don't know why, what thrill they find in creating that, creating such complexity.
Yeah. Okay, I have another question. Like, I have
Yes.
seen, I have never worked with banking domain, but I have seen like I mean, some of my friend is working and they are moving towards a Flutter. I know this
In
question
banking.
is, yeah, in banking.
Okay.
So, I mean, why they are moving towards a Flutter? If the key company keep moving on the Flutter side,
Mhm.
then what will be the future of native platform, basically Android, iOS, whatever?
Most of the people know that I'm a very strong supporter of native rather than these hybrid platforms, and
Yeah.
they're good. Nothing wrong with that, but mostly what I see is the reason why company moves to a different platform is cost, money. So what the company does is, like, if you go for native, the company thinks that native development is a cost. So they'll hire 2 sets of developers. One is a Android team, other is a iOS team, and then they have to hire senior developers and then a tech lead for these for this particular team, and it adds up to the cost, right? Whereas in Flutter, if I know
Mhm.
Flutter, I can just code, and I'll be the one person who will be responsible for for iOS and Android both.
So,
So
do
does
you
that?
think that it's going to affect the market of native?
No, never. It won't.
Okay, so like and iOS they have introduced swiftui, right? And it's
Hmm.
more like a free. I mean, whatever the Dart was following, the Flutter was following, the same pattern kind of thing is following, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And even if you Android side, if you see, then they have introduced Jetpack Compose, right?
Jetpack composable. Yep.
Yes. So why they have introduced the similar kind of things? And if you see the Kotlin language in Android side,
Hmm.
they are also supporting cross-platform now. Now they have released the beta version of
Right,
the
right,
Kotlin language.
right. And I think I think I won't be surprised if this thing happens with Apple as well. Apple, if tomorrow decides to say that, okay, with Swift UI you can build Android apps, it
Yeah.
will be a game changer. To be honest,
Yes,
it
yes,
will.
because even the Android was doing the same, right?
Right, right, exactly, exactly. It is going to be a game changer if Apple tomorrow says that, okay, with Swift UI you can now build Android apps or Java based mobile games or something. So
Mhm.
that will be fun to see. But yeah, as I said, like, Flutter is there in the market right now, and many companies are just moving towards Flutter because it gives the native touch and feel. And there is no harm in learning Flutter right now, because at the end of the day, the more technology that you have in in your resume, the better actually. And if you see that, and I think this is one of the sections where developers become lazy, They don't want to at one certain point when they are earning good, they don't want to invest time in learning something new, and they're like अरे चल रहा है ना, हमको पगार वगार आ रही है ठीक से,
Right,
तो कोई,
right, right.
हाँ, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है। तो ये आलसीपना नहीं करना चाहिए डेवलपर्स ने, और अगर वो थोड़ा मेहनत करते हैं तो आई थिंक जो वो जितना वो बेस कमा रहे हैं उससे डबल कमा सकते हैं, इफ दे start learning this new technologies which are there in the market, like Flutter is there, React Native is there. You can even,
Hmm.
but if you want to stick with native itself, you can just go with Android, Kotlin, and Jetpack Composable itself. They have, and to be honest, if you if you go to the Android side, you will find a very solid documentation as compared to what you see in iOS. Apple should
Right.
basically learn something from Android documentation team on how they beautifully write documentation, give examples, and even mention good practices. This is one of the reason why there are many influencers in iOS which preach bad practices, is because Apple themselves do not take effort in writing, what is good practices. This is how it should be done. And a simple four-liner note itself, you'll not find on Apple documentation, which is very disheartening.
Yeah, I can relate this because I am an Android developer. I'm moving towards iOS.
Yep. Even when I came from Microsoft, I mean, as a ASP.NET, and I looked into Objective C, and I was like, man, there is no documentation.
Yeah, it's very hard to find.
Yep. Good question, man. Good question.
Next one we have from Vivek. He's raising it. Vivek, you can unmute yourself.
Hey.
Okay, yeah. So like a couple, like last week I asked a question in group, like I had to deal with a legacy project. So it was based on this, like what you say, real-time communication and all. So the thing is that like it has like near to the 45 screens. Yeah, like so screens. So view controllers. It's basically in UI kit. So
Mhm.
like whenever we want to, like if I am working on like let's say I'm working on like a 25th screen, like on the user journey, the like 25th screen they are like trying to modify. So how the practice is like you want like when you want to build and run the app, you have to go through like the all the 20 previous states. Like okay, you have to sign in, like give a mock details and sign in, then go to homepage, then go to this tab, then go to this select option, and then finally I come to the page where I've designed like the UI I have changed and all. So is it always like that, or like is there any practice like okay you can just like I'm thinking like if a big company like LinkedIn or Facebook, like they may have like more than 100 pages and all, like for
Right.
if they are changing like 50th page, so every developers will go build and compile and build the app and goes from the starting point to that page, or how they do, like it's very time consuming.
So
Like
are you talking about testing, or is it?
like after design like, we have to like developers we had to like check that like okay of the how the UI design all looks, is it like the Figma we gave, or how the perform working is that like any like button any issues or crashes are coming.
So the
So-
question, so the question I understood right now is like, you're saying that if you have 20 pages and all the 20 pages are revamped to a new design, so how do you do that, right?
like no, if it's like if only the 18th and 19th page is revamped.
Okay.
So
Okay, I see.
how, yeah, like how the like when we test, should we like is there a way like we can directly go to that page, or how people do that like in usual how senior developers like do like manage this type of thing.
So usually how I have managed it, and maybe there are better ways of doing this. How I have managed such things in the past is, so I built that 19th page UI because you have your storyboard and XIB, or maybe you did it programmatically.
Yeah,
So you have the code for that particular UI.
yeah,
And once you revamped it to the latest and greatest mockup that is given by your client or your UI design team, then what I do is I deploy it in my iPhone and I manually test it. That's one way I do it, and I make sure that all the margins and all everything constraints and everything are perfectly set, because that is the very first thing that you want to do. You don't want to have inconsistencies with the new design. And the second thing that you can do is you can perform UI testing on it, because obviously, I mean, it would depend. When you say 18th and 19th UI, it would depend on when that 18th and 19th UI is coming. Is it like buried deep down somewhere in the um, it's buried deep down somewhere, and it would take you multiple navigations to reach that spot? Or if that particular page is if that particular page will only come based on some certain conditions. So all of that things, you can write test cases for that, you can write UI test cases for that, and then you can eventually go ahead and assert on certain UI elements.
Okay.
Yeah, that is how I do it. And I'm not saying that this is the most amazing way of doing it. Perhaps there are better ways of doing it, but I'm just telling you what I know.
So like the first method you talked, like you isolate that view control and run locally on
Yep.
your. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Either you can do that. Either you can because your Xcode has previews, right? So it can show you that, okay, how this view is going to look like in multiple screen sizes and all that. But you can check there. That is how you do the first level of isolation. The second is, you can, once you're done, you can deploy it in the device and you can test it out. I always prefer, whenever I'm working on a client project, I always do a device deployment, and I test it on the real device as compared to a simulator, because I can
Yeah.
then easily catch any issues that are happening on the device, but it's not happening on the simulator, because I don't trust simulator at all when I'm on a client project.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
Ravi, two questions I have. Two
Yes.
concerns. Yeah. So basically, I have right now I'm working on a payment screen in for an app. So what happens is there are a lot of methods of payment: card, cash, blah 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 stuffs are there, and also there are split payment as well. So if he doesn't have much cash, he can pay either with card and the rest of them with cash. So the thing is, I have lots and lots of if conditions and checkings in my screen. Whenever that comes, whether it is there or not, all those Vagera things are there. So what happens right now is, if a new person comes, he will get totally confused with where things are and what all things are happening. I have clearly written all the comments and all there, but still, like when I go back and recheck also, I will get confused. Okay, where is this thing? What is it? Is there any proper way of doing this, since I have a lot of conditions and all? Okay, yes, tell me that.
So this will be actually fun to work on it if you can create a GitHub project, and I mean, like, not with your actual company code, but I can show it to you in code, and how you can actually clean this up. But this is what I was talking about. This is decomposition based on functionality. This is what you did in the project. It is called functional decomposition, and functional decomposition is a bad thing. I mean, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because it helps you to identify the requirements and everything. It's a very good thing. But if you bring functional decomposition into your design, then it becomes a bad thing, which I think you are experiencing that. So if there are, as you said, if there are certain different methods, you can create separate classes of them, and those classes can handle those responsibilities, like split payment class or something else. So you can create multiple classes, and you can just use, maybe I'm just thinking out loud, maybe you can use a factory or something, or maybe, you know what, correct pattern for this would be, you want to call certain payment methods based upon certain conditions, right? So maybe a behavioral pattern over here can suffice the need, is what I'm thinking.
I don't have any idea on what those things are. I came across one thing called strategy design pattern, but even
Strategy. Yep.
Also,
Yep. That is what I was. Yeah, that is what I was going to say. So strategy design pattern is one of the things that can definitely help you out, and that is a behavioral pattern.
Okay, I read a lot of things on it, but I didn't clearly understood it. But yeah, but maybe if
you can create a small GitHub project, and yeah, I can tag along with you, and we can work on it.
Okay, cool. And okay, so the next one more thing is, I'm parallelly learning React Native, as well as, I have in my company there was a project for Flutter as well, so I'm parallelly doing that as well. But should I focus more on React Native or Flutter as a side?
Why not both? Why not both?
I don't know. But React Native is totally complicated right now for me because the way it behaves is totally different, right? The web way of doing it, alignment and all those steps. But Flutter is more close to Swift UI or UI kit, and we can just relate to it.
You can actually start with Flutter, because I think that is one of the, it has less challenges, because if you're coming from a native background, you already know a couple of things, and I think in no time you'll be able to grasp some of the details of Flutter, and you can work on it. With React Native, one of the things that a native iOS developer will face challenge who has never done HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So it's a big learning curve for them. If you have never done all of these things and you directly jump on doing all this web
I have done
related
it.
work.
I have done web, so I can understand everything. But since we are more close to Swift UI or this pattern, it's really frustrating to do that.
Correct. And then there is TypeScript, which I think TypeScript is the very amazing part. And if you combine that with React, with the hooks and everything, I think some of the thing is like the amount of time that you need to spend with that technology to get used to it. And the more you spend time with it, the better you get at it. So this is how I would say. So coming back to the original question, I think you should probably continue with Flutter first. And I would say this: don't try to ship in two boats. Just complete your first journey in one single boat, and then go to the other one. Just complete Flutter first. Create a small app, and it doesn't have to be like a super complicated app. Just try to, maybe for UI you can mimic iTunes UI or something, or maybe Amazon UI, and then see how that goes.
Cool. After that.
Yeah.
Okay. And for the previous one, the one who asked the question, right, for the multiple pages and all, like what I understood is, like for him, I think they can just change the route, right? For example, since you have to go to a lot of pages to the end, he can just change the route in UI kit, or just change the something in the Swift UI, right? We can just change the route, right? So it won't be that complicated now. That is more easy.
Well, it also depends. I mean, if there is also state management, right? So it depends. I mean, yes, that is a good idea, but it depends. Like if there is state management or something, they would have to create that particular state and then send it to the route and preload it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, hi Ravi, Abhishek here.
Hey Abhishek.
So I just have a basic question. I mean, from the architecture part of view only, like a simple basic question. Like, I mean, can you discuss about a number of questions that we should put up to the client to help us decide on the best type of architecture for our next project? I mean, I remember we had the discussion on this particular thing in our off topic on the mod chat. Like, we always have one kind of the architecture, like mvvm. Okay, मैं इसके साथ जाएगा पक्का. So I mean, everyone asks, okay, हाँ यार ये question पूछने चाहिए. So can you discuss about the number of basic question? Okay, this is the question. If this is the answer, we have the particular this topic, and okay, we should choose MVC, MVVM one. ठिकाना.
मैंने कभी ऐसा कभी किया नहीं है कि मैं क्लाइंट को कुछ टेक्निकल क्वेश्चन पूछ रहा हूँ और उसके हिसाब से मैं अपना आर्किटेक्चर या ऐसा कुछ डिसाइड कर रहा हूँ. मैंने जब भी कोई प्रोजेक्ट आया है मेरे पास, तो सबसे पहले तो मैं ये देखता हूँ कि इसमें करना क्या, उसकी रिक्वायरमेंट को समझने लगता हूँ. मैं आर्किटेक्चर तक जाता भी नहीं हूँ, ठीक है, क्योंकि अगर मेरे दिमाग में आर्किटेक्चर है तो मैं रिक्वायरमेंट को समझ नहीं पाऊंगा. ये चीज़ है. तो सबसे पहले मैं शांति से सुन लेता हूँ कि रिक्वायरमेंट क्या है. तो मैं रिक्वायरमेंट के ऊपर क्वेश्चंस पूछता हूँ क्लाइंट को. मैं क्लाइंट को कभी टेक्निकल नहीं पूछता.
I mean, the BC requirement, okay.
हाँ. तो उसी के ऊपर मतलब जैसे उसने रिक्वायरमेंट दे दी कि मेरे को लॉगिन चाहिए, ठीक है, सॉरी रजिस्ट्रेशन चाहिए. तो भाई रजिस्ट्रेशन के तो मल्टीपल तरीके हैं. अभी आप गूगल से भी कर सकते हो, फेसबुक. तो मैं उसको ये क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा कि बॉस तेरे को कैसा रजिस्ट्रेशन चाहिए, तेरे को सिंपल ईमेल आईडी डाल दो और ये वो रजिस्टर वैसा वाला चाहिए, या फिर तुम गूगल से भी रजिस्टर कर सकते हो, या इससे उससे वगैरह. मतलब क्या क्या चाहिए, कैसा चाहिए तुमको, वो उस हिसाब से मैं क्वेश्चन पूछूंगा उसको. एंड वंस आई हैव ऑल द रिक्वायरमेंट इन प्लेस, देन मैं अपने सीनियर के साथ बैठ के डिस्कस करूंगा कि ओके, इसमें इतना इतना रिक्वायरमेंट्स है, and then I'll identify. मैं architecture पे भी नहीं जाऊंगा, मैं I'll identify my low level components कि इसमें से volatile area कौन सा है. Volatile area means, again this is a low level design concept. धीरे धीरे करके मैं लो लेवल ऐसा लग रहा है लो लेवल डिजाइन के बारे में ज्यादा बोल रहा हूँ
मैं वही चीज कहने वाला था कि हाँ भी हम ज्यादातर फोकस वहीं पे रहते हैं
लो
आर्किटेक्चर
लेवल.
लेवल पे हम ये सोचते हैं कि हाँ से फोल्डर स्ट्रक्चरिंग कैसी है
नहीं
फोल्डर के अंदर क्या हो रहा है
एग्जैक्टली iOS में यही है कि हम लोग ज्यादा ध्यान ना सिक्योरिटी पे देते हैं ना लो लेवल डिजाइनिंग पे देते हैं, हम ये चीजों पे नहीं देते हैं, जिसकी वजह से क्या होता है कि आप कौन सा भी आर्किटेक्चर चूज कर लो यार, आप बड़े से बड़ा आर्किटेक्चर चूज कर लो, लेकिन अगर आपका ये सारी चीजें क्लियर नहीं है, लो लेवल डिजाइन ही क्लियर नहीं है, तो कुछ भी यूज कर लो, इट इज नॉट गोइंग टू वर्क. यू आर गोइंग टू गेट अ रॉटन एप्पल एट द एंड ऑफ द डे.
करेक्ट.
तो एज आई वाज सेइंग कि वंस आई नो ऑल माय रिक्वायरमेंट्स, मैं अपने सीनियर के साथ बैठ के बात करूंगा कि ओके क्या है सब. एक वॉलेटाइल एरिया मैं आइडेंटिफाई करूंगा कि ऐसा कौन सा एरिया जिसमें ज़्यादा चेंजेस एक्सपेक्टेड है, उसको कैसे हैंडल करेंगे, क्या करेंगे. सर्विसेज वगैरह को आइडेंटिफाई करना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है कि आपको कोई एक पर्टिकुलर, जैसे पेमेंट हो गया, पेमेंट की हम बात कर रहे थे, तो पेमेंट सर्विस में क्या होगा क्या नहीं होगा. अच्छा, पेमेंट इज वन ऑफ द एरियाज विच कैन बी वॉलेटाइल, बिकॉज जैसा कि अभी हम बात कर रहे थे कि पेमेंट के बहुत सारे तरीके होते हैं, स्प्लिट पेमेंट है, ये है वो है, तो दैट इज डेफिनेटली अ वॉलेटाइल एरिया. तो उसको मैं अलग तरीके से थोड़ा ट्रीट करूंगा एज कम्पेयर टू ऑल द अदर मॉड्यूल्स. And once I have all my low level details done, which is nothing but system design, तो उस वक्त मुझे फर्क नहीं पड़ता कि मैं क्या आर्किटेक्चर यूज करूँ. फिर वो तो ऐसा हो जाएगा कि अच्छा हाँ, आपको आपके फोल्डर कैसे सजा के रखना है. मैं तो अगर आप मेरे को एमवीसी भी दे दोगे तो मैं एमवीसी में भी एक बढ़िया एप्लीकेशन बना के आपको दे दूंगा, बिना बिना विथ 100% टेस्टेबिलिटी एंड एवरीथिंग. एमवीसी तो बस ऐसे ही, मतलब पता नहीं बदनाम है सच्ची में. लोगों को एमवीवीएम चाहिए था, तो एमवीसी में टेस्टिंग नहीं होती, एमवीसी में बड़ा व्यू कंट्रोलर क्रिएट. एमवीसी के एक्चुअली किसी को शायद पता नहीं है, बट एमवीसी के एप्पल के डॉक्यूमेंटेशन में एमवीसी का उन्होंने क्लियर कट लिखा हुआ है कि देयर आर 2 फ्लेवर्स ऑफ एमवीसी विच यू कैन यूज अकॉर्डिंगली. लेकिन हम डॉक्यूमेंटेशन उतना पढ़ने में एफर्ट नहीं डालते, तो ठीक है, दैट्स फाइन.
करेक्ट.
आप आर्किटेक्चर कोई भी सेलेक्ट कर लो, लेकिन इतना मेक श्योर करना कि आपका प्रोजेक्ट का साइज क्या है और वो आर्किटेक्चर में कितना एफर्ट लग रहा है. जैसे कि मैंने कहा था कि अगर आप एक छोटा सा प्रोजेक्ट है और उसमें अगर आप वाइपर सेलेक्ट कर रहे हो, तो इट मेक्स नो सेंस, क्योंकि होता क्या है कि आर्किटेक्चर के ऊपर आपका फिर सिस्टम डिजाइन आ जाता है. फिर उसको जब आप कोड करते हो उन सारी मॉड्यूल्स को, तो उस हिसाब से आपको आप एस्टिमेट क्रिएट करते हो. आप फिर उसके बाद एस्टिमेट जाता है, फिर एस्टिमेट से कॉस्ट आप करते हो, आप क्लाइंट को बिल करते हो कि हाँ चलो हमको 6 महीने लगने वाले हैं इसको करने के लिए. जबकि वही चीज़ अगर आप मान लेते हैं वीआईपी या एमवीवीएम से करते, तो हो सकता है आपको थोड़ा कम टाइम लगे, क्योंकि उसमें उतने सारे कंपोनेंट्स नहीं है जिसमें आपको इंटरेक्ट करना पड़ रहा है. राइट.
करेक्ट. राइट.
तो उस थोड़ा सूझबूझ के साथ अपने को काम लेना है. ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब मेरा फेवरेट RX VM है तो मैं RX VM यूज करूंगा हमेशा के लिए. ऐसा ऐसा नहीं होता. थोड़ा सा हमको थॉट देना पड़ेगा आर्किटेक्चर को, क्योंकि अगर आपका आर्किटेक्चर सही नहीं है तो आगे की चीजें भी सही नहीं होने वाली है. और डोंट एक्सपेक्ट कि अगर अगर किसी, जैसे कि मैं एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ कि अगर कोई इंसान गाड़ी चला रहा है, उसके हाथ में ऑडी है, उसको गाड़ी चलाना नहीं आता है, और फिर भी वो गाड़ी चलाने बैठ गया कि नहीं भाई मैं चलाऊंगा ये गाड़ी को, और तो फिर वो क्या करेगा, वो गाड़ी ठोक ही देगा. फिर बाद में क्या बोलेगा कि भाई ऑडी की गलती है, गाड़ी की गलती है.
रिलेटेबल. सो लो लेवल
Yep.
डिजाइन पे ध्यान बहुत देना पड़ेगा,
एग्जैक्टली.
क्योंकि ज्यादातर
जो
जनता के ख्याल
कि
से
iOS
फोल्डिंग
डेवलपमेंट
स्ट्रक्चरिंग.
में, हाँ, जो कि iOS डेवलपर्स में मेरे को इतना सॉरी टू से बट इतना ज़्यादा नहीं दिखता है वो. बट वो धीरे धीरे आई थिंक इट इज़ कमिंग अप. जैसा जब हम लोगों ने सॉलिड प्रिंसिपल्स के बारे में बात की थी, और फिर उसके बाद जैसे धीरे धीरे जैसे दे आर गेटिंग अवेयर ऑफ दिस काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स, एंड आई थिंक दे आर डूइंग अ गुड जॉब इन एनालाइजिंग थिंग्स वर्सेस मेरे टीएल ने ये बोला है तो मैं यही करेगा, दैट अप्रोच.
नहीं, सही है. ठीक. थैंक यू रवि, थैंक यू सो मच, एंड थैंक यू अगेन फॉर दिस पर्टिकुलर सेशन अगेन.
थैंक यू.
Hello, Ravi.
हेलो.
Yeah. What are the parameters depending upon which you will choose these are one of these architecture in your project?
What are the parameters in which?
depending upon which you
Mhm.
will choose a architecture in your project.
That would depend upon the size of my project. I can go with anything. I to be honest, I just select a base project first of all. Sorry,
Mhm.
a base architecture first of all. Like my favorite is mvvm, so I think that okay, mvv I'll get, I'm selecting mvvm as my base, and I'll get back to this, and then I jump into my low level design details, and then I see how big my project is, or how small my project is, what are
And then
the
you will change that architecture too if anything required.
yeah. But these are the decisions that I take even before writing a single line of code. So this is all in papers and whiteboard that I'm talking about. So
Okay.
yeah, once I know like what I'm doing, what are the navigations, in push notifications, what I need to do, how complex is are all of those things going to be, then I think about, okay, maybe mvvm is not the right fit, maybe I should go with something else, which does a better job in managing things, because at the end of the day you want to choose an architecture which does a better job uh, in terms of project maintenance, right?
Okay. 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 So, does time plays a role in that also? Because you have to think about that deadline
Hmm.
part also.
Yes,
So,
and for software design actually, so for this exercise, for this entire exercise, I think the leads and the seniors, there is something called a sprint zero, and the
yeah, yeah.
sprint zero is figuring things out, right? So you figure
Okay.
things out in sprint zero, and if this is not done, then I don't know. I mean, it's like
Because as you said,
you're directly keyboarding things, and you should not be keyboarding things when it comes to client applications.
okay, because you have said that you will write it down on pen or paper. But
Mhm.
for me, I have to just when I have created that folder architecture and all some things, then I will realize sometimes that is
Mhm.
not
No,
done.
no, I think, yeah, I mean, whatever works for you, right? But I would suggest, rather than doing that, because that is
Mhm.
like you're directly playing with the client applications, and client applications should not be a playground for your experiments. I would
Okay.
suggest take some time. I mean, think about the project, think about, analyze about its requirement, think about what navigation it is doing. Obviously, you have service repositories and all that layers are already going to be there, right? There is no
Mm.
doubt. And
Yes.
but when it comes to selecting the architecture, like how my folders are going to be managed, how security is going to be done, I would say that take your time with this, because what happens is like you can really, you'll complete the project, you'll release it, and the next after 6 months, if that same code comes in front of you which you have written yourself, you won't be able to identify a thing, right?
Okay.
So you should
Okay.
have
Okay.
a solid technical reason behind everything that you do in a project. It's not like, okay, today is Tuesday, I'll go with dependency injection.
Okay. Okay. So in the session, you have multiple times you have said about that low level designing part.
Hmm.
Basically, what is? But I have a few idea about that. That is creating your screens or something or architectures. That
That
it
is
is.
no. Low level. I think we should be doing a session on low level design as well, because I think a lot of people are much interested in that.
Okay.
Um, and architecture is
Uh,
not about all about solid principles and dependency injections and all that. There is a lot of thing that goes behind a software architecture. The entire, it's a very big process. Uh, to answer your question, what is low level design? Low level design is nothing but you're drawing sequence diagrams, you're seeing how the data is going to flow from one layer to the other layer, you're testing, like again, in this is all whiteboarding and this is all pen and paper stuff. So you're just testing that if a scenario A happens, then how is my design going to handle things. So you take that scenario and run it through your design. When I say run it through your design, what I mean is you draw sequence diagram based on what you understood about the requirement, and then you think about use cases. Okay, what if this layer does not return me the data? Then what happens? Okay, what if the validation fails on this layer? Then what happens? How is my system going to handle it? How is my system going to handle the errors more gracefully, or any unexpected exceptions, or any threading so these are the things that we'll definitely talk about, that you do in low level design, and we'll definitely talk about it.
Okay, so that is that it helps more because in
It
terms of that.
does. It gives you a lot more clarity of
Okay.
what you should be doing. Because see, say for example, you started a very complicated story. Forget about complicated, you started a very medium complex story, right? And
Okay.
you're coding, and at the middle you came to know that, okay, you haven't thought about this particular scenario.
Okay.
So now you have given, say for example, 40 hours to complete that story, but in the middle you came to know, just because you did not do this exercise, in the middle you come to know that, okay, it's going to take me more than 40 hours to complete this story, right? So
Yes.
it doesn't look good on the developer, it doesn't look good on the team, it doesn't look good on the project itself. So doing such exercises will help you give more clarity in terms of even estimation, and in terms of effort as a developer, what you need to do to complete the story uh, gracefully, as compared to just doing it.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah.
I
Any
think
more
that's
questions?
it. No,
That's it.
no other questions are there. Yes, that's it. I'm going to stop the recording now, and if there are some chill questions, then we can take, or we will be wrapping otherwise.